divorce, already filed for divorce, or post-divorce. You will explore the emotional, legal, and financial aspects of divorce from professionals who have guided others through divorce. For more information on this divorce workshop, contact SecondSaturdayWoodlands.com or call 832-375-0900.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on the irlonestar.com.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler, and I'm proud to be your host today. I'm also a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. We're broadcasting today live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, located right here in downtown Conroe, Texas, one of the fastest growing cities in America. So if you want to do business, check out Conroe, that's for sure. All of Montgomery County, in fact, is just booming, and I guess sort of blooming as well, with great business activity. Quick business thought for you today, I hope that maybe you can use. Mel Kleiman, who's been a great friend of the show, he's been on a number of times, to me, one of the leading experts in the country on hiring people and developing people. Mel has a program now that he talked about the last time he joined us a couple of months ago called the 5-Star Employee Program. And one of the things he talked about, and it struck me, I was doing some reading this past week, is the unique employment proposition. It's easy to forget about things like that, but the unique employment proposition, UEP, try not to forget that. And if you recall, if you listened to the show, and if you didn't, it's a simple process. You make yourself unique to your employees, particularly your potential employees. Give them a reason or reasons to come to work for you. It's very important. You know, today it's hard to hire people. We read about it, we hear about it, and in many cases, you're listening, you experience it. But if you can make your company unique, and there are lots and lots of ways to do that, it's not that difficult, but you've got to focus on that. So make yourself a true 5-star employee and adopt a unique employment proposition for your company today. If you need more information about that or want to re-listen, you can go to our website, irlonestar.com, the radio station, click on this show, and that last visit with Mel is posted there. Or if you just want to send me an email, I'll be glad to send you further information. It's Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Well, the Weekly Business Hour, I'm proud to say, is where Montgomery County and businesses now throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve their business, and be part of conversations that can make a real difference in what they do in their businesses. And today, I think we've lined up a good show, but before we get started in the show itself, I want to remind you of a couple things. The show is broadcast live on YouTube and Facebook, so if you'd like to see us here on the show, then just go to Facebook or YouTube, find the Weekly Business Hour page, click on it, and you can watch as well as listen. And again, my email address, I want to make sure it's out there. Love to hear from people. If you've got a business challenge in your own business and want some advice, drop me an email. Again, Rick at irlonestar.com. And I respond. In fact, we have a mailbag segment, which we're going to talk about later today. Respond to someone's question on the air. So please drop me an email at rick@irlonestar.com. Well, now we get rolling on the show. The reason you're here today, I hope, and listening to us, I want to introduce our two wonderful guests that we have with us. We have Brenda Wetherbe, President, and Eric Standlee, Vice President of American Prudential Capital. And we're going to be talking about factoring and how it may be a good choice to finance your business. Welcome to both of you to today's show.
Thank Thank you.
Well, the conversation, I like to start with anyone who comes in our studio, give a little bit of a background, just a quick background on your business background, so the audience has a little bit of a sense of who you are. Brenda, why don't you lead off?
Well, I started American Prudential Capital 34 years ago, and our whole focus and philosophy from the beginning was how do we build small businesses? How do we make them stronger? How do we make them healthier? And in the end, how do we make them bankable? Because that is our goal. Our philosophy has always been, for 34 years, is we want to work with community banks, and we work with community banks in Montgomery County as well as Harris County, as well as all across the state. We want to build customers for the banks that can be bankable and that can build our community and hire and prosper. So that's where we got started. That's what we do.
34 years, I believe you said?
34 years.
Wow, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. We are now a part of Stellar Bank, which is about a $12 billion bank, recent merger. So we were asked to join them, and we have. We really like that relationship. They had just made it very possible for all of our clients to have unlimited capital, and that's really what we want, and then to transition into traditional financing.
Well, Eric, give us a little bit of your business background, if you would.
Sure. I'm a U.S. Air Force veteran. I was a cryptologic linguist, Chinese Mandarin in the Air Force. And I've been doing factoring for the entire 34 years, actually. I was employee number one. I was the guy who answered the phones and filed the papers and, washed the broom closet or whatever, whatever needed to be done. But in the last 34 years, we've had a lot of success, and so it's been really fun. We've funded thousands of companies and billions of dollars in the last 34 years.
Well, 34 years and 34 years, wow, together, right? Almost 70 years. That's fantastic.
Well, you were talking about giving your people a reason to work for you. His story is great, but behind him are people with 29 years of service, 25 years of service, 30 years of service. Most of our employees have been with us for a long time. And when you do what you said, Rick, which is give people a reason to work for you, they tend to hang around.
That's fantastic. That may be another show. I'll have you come back and give a testimonial, because I personally, when I work with companies, mentor, advise, consult, whatever, that's one of the major things I try to convey to small business people who are trying to build a business. Create the environment, whatever, to make people want to come talk to you about a job, and people kind of look at you and say, what do you mean? The word gets out. If you're doing it right, it gets out,
Yes.
and then they stay.
Yes.
And you are going to have a stronger, better business than your competition. There's no doubt about it.
That's very
So
true.
that's wonderful. Well, before I get too far off track, let's talk about factoring. I think it's an important financing method that's out there. One of my sons is in the finance area, and back in the very, very beginning of his career, he worked for a company that was part of what they did. So I learned quite a bit firsthand from him. Factoring, and let's kind of just go through it. I know we've got some slides that we can put up, and the first question obviously is, and I'm going to let you all take turns however you want to answer the question.
Okay.
So what is factoring? Let's start talk about it.
Factoring goes back for centuries, and I think we can go to the slide that says what is factoring. And basically, factoring is the act of selling an asset at a discount. It's been around for centuries. It was very effective back in the day on the docks in Georgia on the docks, where they were bringing cotton into the warehouses, and they were waiting for a ship to come in to buy the cotton, and there was this row of factors, and it's even called Factors Row in Savannah, and it's where they would sit and buy the receivable that was going to be paid, and that's the origin of the phrase waiting for your ship to come in, because the cotton was sitting there and they were waiting for the buyer to come in, but the farmer needed to get back to the farm. So the ability to sell those receivables and get on back to the farm was key for the success of the cotton farmer? Well, it expanded from there. Factoring grew into transportation, it grew into textiles, and it grew into oil and gas eventually. And that's the stage of its growth where we came on board 34 years ago, was when factoring really started being effective for oil and gas service companies. And so that's where we got started, buying the receivable, giving the business owner cash so that they can go back and create more receivables, and then we wait for the invoice to pay.
It's an interesting business. Like I said, I have a son that was in that business, and I learned a lot. And obviously, potentially just a great tool for businesses, particularly in the beginning of their life, so to speak, of growth. One thing you said early on when you introduced yourself, Brenda, was about the bankability. And so there's an end, there's a beginning and an end to this. And like you say, the end is we pass you on, customer, to a bank. And that to me is kind of unusual, and that's that relationship.
Yes.
What kind of relationship do you try to build with a customer? Because typically, if success is there for the customer, it's going to be temporary, so to speak.
It is sort of. We bring the lending officer in as a part of the team from the beginning. So they know that they're connected with a lender within the bank, and we keep the lender informed. We help the lender understand their business, but the relationship that we build with the client is, first of all, one of trust. We have to trust them. They have to trust us. So we have to build that kind of credibility with the client. But we also give them advice. For example, we take startup companies, and like you, we advise them as they're getting started as to how they can build their business and how they can be successful. We have a recent story of a gentleman who came in, and he was just absolutely an idea only. And we sat, and he thought he was going to go this way, and we consulted with him and said, no, you really need to go this way. And now he's one of our best clients. But we took him from day one and taught him how to be in his business. He was a very bright person. He's doing a very good job, and we're really proud of him. But he's just one. I mean, we've done that over 34 years so many times. So the relationship we build is one of confidential advisor, one of trust, and one where they know that we have their best interests at heart, and we're not out just to make a buck. We are out to build a business for the community, for the business owner, for the bank.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story, and the idea that you come right alongside of people, so to speak, and
Yes.
help them develop their business.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to be repetitive, but it was always interesting. Then you pass them on to
Yes.
more traditional lending, if you will, being a bank.
That's a success for us when
Yeah.
we've been able to do that, and we can do that in steps. For example, with the way that we do factoring with the bank, we can take a part of the receivables, and the bank can take the remainder of the receivables, so that we can do a blended relationship, so they can be getting the spike funding that they need from the factoring side, but they can get a traditional line in place as well. So it's like they start off the factoring only, they progress to a blended relationship, and then when they're ready, they move on to the bank line entirely until they get another spike in their growth, and then they come back in and use the factoring line. So we're with them the whole life of the company, but we take them to traditional lending as soon as we can.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's an alternative, like you say, and I missed that, was the fact that you, when they have, as you call it, a spike or a need, you can come back together,
Yep.
especially if you built a good relationship like that,
Yep.
and be there to help them hit that next high point and keep moving, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, why does a company, I know you've got a slide on this,
Yeah.
why does a company use factoring? We've talked about the startups, the people, I guess, that traditional banking is not available
Right.
when you start.
Eric, you want to answer some of those questions?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to share a story. So recently we signed up a customer who's been in business for 12 years, and they're very successful. When we looked at their package, it was, why are they coming to a factor, right? And the answer was they'd had a couple of tight years the last couple of years. And can you imagine, everybody's had a couple of tight years the last couple of years. So they're doing fine, but they're challenged with getting bank financing because the bank has to look at the last couple of years. They have to look at, how have they done? They're not looking at the future, right? The bank's not even really looking at today, right? They're looking at balance sheets from 6 to 12 months ago, right? And so the bank said, look, the lender who brought it to us said, look, we can do about $500,000, but they have a $2 million need. So we looked at it and we said, yes, we really want to do this. They have great customers. We like these guys. They're clean. All of their books are awesome. Let's do this. And so we ended up, putting in a facility for about $2 million a month, right? So that allows them to get the financing they need to make payroll, to grow their company, maybe to get some, equipment, or there's some different ways you can use factoring, right? And so one of the things about that company that was amazing is that when I was talking to him, he had a bad opinion about factoring. He'd heard the bad stories, right? That it was expensive. And it can be very expensive, right? I asked him what his issue was, and he said it was, about 18 to 24% is what he'd heard. And I didn't quote him a rate over the phone because we have to look at docs, but I said, it can be down around 3 or 4%, right? Can we take a look at it and see what we can do for you, right? And he was, well, Eric, if it's 3 to 4%, that's better than the Fed. Why would I go to a bank line? And I said, there's going to be a time when you're going to want to go back to the banker who introduced you, and we're going to bring you to him at the right time, right? But you're right. Right now, it's a great option for you because you're not going to get that from the bank right now, right? So, but we can help startups. We love startups that are, if they're one month in business, but their payables aren't outpacing their receivables. They're not losing money. They're not burning money like these tech startups tend to do, right? If they're doing well, but they really need that gasoline on their fire to grow, right? But they don't want to give up equity, or they don't want to take on, or can't even take on debt, right? They might be looking at some other kinds of hard money lending and that kind of thing. Those are a lot more expensive forms of funding. But with a startup, we can take them from the very beginning and help them grow and be that gasoline on their fire for them to grow significantly fast. We've had companies go from $500,000 a month to $2.5 million a month in a couple of months. So pretty fast. So rapid growth is a huge reason to use factoring, because a bank, like she was talking about, that spike, they can't take a look at that. That's outside of what they can look at, right? And so they can't apply that to the lending, criteria and say, well, sure, we can increase your line. But everybody comes in and says, I've got $1 million contract with Exxon or whatever. I need money to go do this. And the bank's like, good, congratulations, go do it. Show us you can do it, and then maybe we can lend you the money you need, right? So, but the factoring model is short-term finance. It's money that is not long-term. So, that's another thing that I love to talk to my business owners about, is because use the right kind of finance for the right kind of need, right? So if you have a long-term need, you should use long-term finance, right? Long-term debt is a great solution for long-term need, right? But if you have a short-term need, for instance, you have a line of credit, most of the time they're probably not going to allow you to draw on that to make payroll. It's just one of the covenants usually. But that's a short-term need that needs to be met. You need to make payroll, and it's not your fault. Your client might be, paying at 45 to 60 days. Paychecks, come every, two times a month, or maybe once a month, right? That's a lot shorter than 45 to 60 days. So you need to make that payroll. How do you do it? You can use factoring to make the payroll without having to worry about whether the bank can loan against that or not, right?
Well, there's a lot of great uses, and like you say, it's a tool, and I find generally that a lot of businesses are not even aware of it, and we've come up against a break. I need to take a break, but when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about how you market your services, because again, I talk to small businesses and they may have heard of it. Typically, if they've heard of it, it's been something negative, but they're not sure. So let's talk about, when we come back, how you market your business and develop the clientele that you're looking for. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our first break of the day. I hope you'll stay with us. We'll be right back with Brenda and Eric, so we'll see you then.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available in Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Did you know that there are over 153 million orphans in the world today? The sad reality is 99% of those kids will likely never be adopted. Core Love is an organization right here in Conroe that takes care of orphan children in Haiti, Honduras, and India. We bring the love of Jesus by providing their 6 basic needs of clean water, proper food, healthcare, education, job skills, and a loving home. Visit corelove.org, that's CORELUV.org. Will you help defend the orphan?
Hey, tune in to the Bridge Podcast TX Tuesdays at 11 a.m., where we are connecting commerce with community, interviewing business owners and leaders in the community, allowing the audience to peek behind the curtain of what inspires, motivates, drives these individuals to have meaningful, positive impact in this community. For more information about the show, log into irlonestar.com/TBPTX.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler, your host, and we're in the midst of what I think is a very beneficial conversation with Brenda and Eric. These folks are American Prudential Capital, as I've learned. Both have been there since the very beginning. And I want to give you a quick reminder before we get back into our conversation that if you have some thoughts about the show, you've got some criticisms, suggestions, and again, if you have a question for business, a question for these guests, I can put you in touch. Just drop me an email, rick@irlonestar.com. That's rick@irlonestar.com. Well, Brenda and Eric, we've been having, I think, a really helpful conversation about factoring and the people that use it. But one of the things that I mentioned before we went to break and during the break we talked is a lot of small business people just don't know about factoring. And if they know something, and Eric, you kind of touched on it, it might be just a negative thing, but they don't really know. They just heard it. Mm-hmm. How do you market your business? How do you bring in new customers?
For us, it's through the community banks. We want to help people who are reaching out to their community banker to find the financing that they need. They already know they need financing, so it's a logical thing for us. We do a lot of networking. Eric does a tremendous amount of networking, so network marketing is really important for us. But working through the lenders and the community banks is really where we've done most of our work.
So I'll assume that's like a referral program that you have with the bankers themselves?
Yes, we do.
That's great.
Yes.
And what part of Houston or where do you market? Do you market Harris County, Montgomery, or just the world?
Well, not the world, but if it's called Lone Star, then that's where we market, in the state of Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have customers how far away?
Well, we have customers, we've had customers over the years as far away as Lubbock. We've had customers in San Antonio, Austin. We've had customers in Corpus Christi. We've had customers in Beaumont. You know, we've had them pretty much all over the state.
Well, I think the slide that was put up when we came back, kind of breaking down the market, and that's really interesting. And I assume that's statewide at
Yes.
least, or perhaps.
Yeah.
Any comments about that? That is interesting. The industry's really widespread.
Yes. Yeah, when we first started in factoring, it wasn't quite that widespread. It has really spread out into construction, transportation, manufacturing, wholesaling, oilfield services, all the service industries, computer technology. So it reaches a lot of business segments.
Now, is there any business segment that your firm will not consider for factoring? Is any particular industry or business off limits, so to speak?
Yeah, we can't fund receivables that are Medicare, Medicaid related.
Oh, sure.
So that's, the government doesn't allow that. So that's kind of off limits for us.
When I was last in touch with it, I also, with factoring had some real conversations, which has been some years ago. Construction industry was one, too, that a lot of people avoided, if I recall correctly.
It was one that a lot of people avoided, and it is one that a lot of people still avoid. We work well with construction industries. It has to be non-bonded type of work, but we can work in the construction industry.
That's an industry, because I've been in that industry back when, and it's an industry that I think factoring could really be helpful.
Yes.
Because you finish jobs and you do this and you just get slow paid, and no fault of your own. I remember we finished a job one time, and they did the final walkthrough, and there were 0 items on the list, the punch list.
Yeah.
But it was a government job, federal government job, and it took 6 months and a trip to Washington to get paid. There was no dispute. It just was caught, and so factoring for construction makes a lot of sense.
Well, and you hit on something that's really important. While we can't do Medicare and Medicaid receivables, we can do the Department of the Navy, Department of Transportation, Department of Army, whatever. We can do federal receivables. We have the right set up with the federal government so that they can pay us directly. So a lot of people can't handle federal receivables or government receivables or TxDOT receivables, but we can.
Well, I got to believe that's a blessing.
It is.
Because when you're saying that, I'm just thinking bureaucracy, and I said,
Yeah.
if you've cut your way through that, know how to make that work, that's invaluable.
Yeah.
I hope if you're listening to the program and you work with governmental entities, particularly as she mentioned, the federal government and even TxDOT, you need to be in touch with these people. There's no doubt about it, because I'm sure there are not a lot of you around that do that.
That's right.
I'm guessing, but I suspect that's true. We were talking about relationships, and that's always intriguing to me, because business is really built around relationships.
Yes, it is.
Customers, vendors, advisors, all kinds of relationships. You've got a relationship that at first glance, as I mentioned, short term or with a defined term, but you corrected me in a way. You said, no, it's really long term, because businesses will hit down the road. They'll get, as you called, a spike. What does your typical relationship look like, as far as how does it typically, somebody comes in, they can use the factoring, their business is growing. How long before they transition, say, to a traditional bank, either partially or completely?
Yeah. I think it usually happens within the first 18 months, 18 months to 2 years. We have had clients go into traditional or partly into traditional and a part in the factoring, and then withdraw from the traditional and move back into factoring because of the speed with which we're able to fund them. We move so rapidly that it startles people. For example, they can come in and apply on Monday, and depending on the industry and whether their documents are good and all of that, they could be funded by Friday. We move very quickly. And so some companies find that ability to quickly access money without so many requirements is preferable for their industry. We had a guy who was into trusses, commercial trusses, and he went into a traditional line. And I'll never forget the phone call when he called. He said, Brenda, if you'll take me back, I will never leave again. And he didn't. He could have stayed in traditional. But for his industry, the factoring really worked well, because he could upscale and downscale. And, with building trusses for the commercial building industry, that is what happens. You have the roller coaster, right? So he could change very quickly, and that worked really well for him.
It's very interesting to me to hear that, because one of the things I try to work with clients is to build processes and procedures so you can stay focused on your main business, like collections. That's one of my, are you in the collection business, or are you in whatever you're doing, in the widget business, right?
Yeah.
And they get tied up in doing collections.
Yes.
And it's very interesting. And so by connecting with a lender like you that has that flexibility and that speed, and like you say, certain industries, that can be a real plus. And again, what I like about it personally, just an observation, is I've got that relationship. It's there. I don't have to be in the financing business going out looking for financing all the time. I've got to work on the relationship, I would hope, which I always encourage that. Nobody, the bank doesn't want to lend you money when you need money, right? Something like that, the old expressions. But a lot of business owners don't work on having the resource there when they need it. It's on them. And I get it. They're focused on producing their widgets, which is where they should be focused. Very interesting. What else about factoring do people need to understand in general that would make it clearer to them about what factoring's all about?
Well, there are a lot of things that are phrased as factoring, and what they do is hide a lot of expenses that the business owner doesn't know about until he gets into the relationship. So it's really important for our community here in Montgomery County and across the state to understand that we do not lock them into a contract that they can't get out of without paying us. There are no prepayment penalties. They don't have to factor everything that they do. They can choose what they want to factor, when they want to factor. We try to put as much control or leave as much control in the business owner's hands as we possibly can. And we don't punish them. We don't charge a minimum fee or a minimum amount they have to factor. We're truly only charge a discount off the face value of the receivable, and you really can't find that anyplace else. And that's all we charge, nothing else. No processing fee, no handling fee, no points above prime fee, none of that. Just a discount.
You make it easy. Well, Eric, let me ask you, let's kind of work off that. I heard flexibility is what I heard.
Yes.
What are some other real advantages, distinct advantages of doing factoring?
Well, so a lot of customers will get to a place where they need to get, some kind of supplies that they need for their business, right? And they can't get that bank line or whatever. Factoring can be there to help them make that, get those supplies, right? So they can be, just like they can get a discount if they paid cash for those kind of things, they can use us instead to get that discount and go ahead and move forward and get their business growing. It really gives them flexibility to do whatever they need to do, right? So if they need to grow and they've got the receivables, they can sell it to us and they can use that to grow as fast as they want to grow. And if they need to stop, they don't need to be factoring with us. We will tell them they don't need to factor with us. They can wait until they need us again. And it's a great flexibility for them to take a breather and not have to worry about that. But, if they have a long-term debt, those payments are there no matter what, right? The cycle goes down and they still have those payments, right? With us, it's kind of built into the cost of doing business, right? The trust company that she was mentioning, he did that. He built the cost right into the cost of doing business. So if he used us, he didn't feel it. If he didn't use us, it was a bump in his income, right? So it can be a great flexibility for them.
I was curious, on a month-to-month basis, if I'm a client of yours and I'm doing the right things, you got a good relationship, it's all working, how often do you have contact with those individuals?
Oh, our staff is in contact with them all the time because they can fund 1 day a week, 5 days a week, they can fund every other week, they can fund constantly. And we are constantly monitoring the receivables, and we give them reports every night. They don't have to go looking for the report. We report to them what's outstanding on their receivables and what's collected, what has come in. We talk to them every day about what has come in, and we send money out to them off of what has come in. So we're in contact with them like daily.
Collecting the receivable. Now, when I factor, that falls into your hands. What do you do collection-wise, say that I, as the originator of the debt, I've sold the product, sold the service.
Right.
Do you do anything different with collections than I particularly would do?
Well, I'm going to give you a piece of philosophy that I've kind of lived with for 34 years. It's more important who you do business with than that you do business at all. And so we're selective about our clients. So we build that confidence, that we trust them, we know what they're doing, we have confidence in them. We don't interfere with the collection process. unless things go awry. And at that point, we're working with the client to heal that. But mostly, we work with the client. If things are getting behind, we're talking to the client so that the client maintains the open channel with the customer. You know, we work with all the majors in the whole state. All the major corporations pay us directly. So we have those relationships in place. But we want our clients to keep their relationship with their point of contact very clear.
So they don't turn over the collection to you. You let them continue to do it.
Yes.
But you oversee it.
Yeah, we oversee it.
And you know when something's stretched out too far that.
Yeah, and we're going to reach out to them and say, hey, you guys, have you looked at this invoice? Because it's like getting really out there. And they'll pick it up from there. So they rely on us to keep them on point, and the daily reports that we give them, we give them advisories. We send out advisory letters, say, hey, you know, you need to look at this one, you need to look at that one.
So you're there as an advisor.
Yes.
As you use that word, and I think that's wonderful.
And there's one more thing too. We check credit for the customers. So a lot of times small businesses don't have a credit department. They have no ability to, they don't even know that they can check sometimes the credit of their customers. I had a customer come to me, he was like so proud that he was doing business with Chesapeake, for instance, when Chesapeake was on TV and it was all in the news, right? And I was like, well, that might not be a good thing for you right now. You might want to let us check credit on that for you.
Well, I think that you're right about that. That's invaluable. And again, I work with small business clients, and that my expression, as I mentioned earlier, you know, you're not in the collections business. You're not, you know, AR. You've got to develop process procedures, or, in a sense, a partner in a factoring company, somebody that will at least guide you, because they tend to get, you know, emotional and get involved in it. Next thing you know, you've got to sue somebody to collect a debt that nobody disputes. And I just shake my head. I'm doing that right now with one client. There's no dispute. There's nothing. But it's drug out for 2 years. Let's talk about the pandemic just for a moment, because that's 2 years that are kind of a blip in the screen.
Right.
Your business during the pandemic, was it up or down or pretty much the same?
Well, in the early part of the pandemic, we were down like everybody else because everything shut down. And so, you know.
So there was just no commerce going on.
Just no commerce, you know. So that was for everybody a bad time. But now, during the later part of the pandemic and then all into now, businesses, because they lost money during 2020 and 2021, their borrowing base with the bank is kind of out of kilter. You know, their financial statements are kind of out of kilter, and they're a good business, and they survived the pandemic, but now they're in the rebuilding stage. So pretty quickly after business commerce started again during the pandemic, our business picked up because those people couldn't borrow what they needed, and they had to have a source in order to recover.
Yeah, it was an interesting time, and as I mentioned, I mentor businesses, and at least the ones that I work with here in Montgomery County, small businesses, they all did well. I mean, their sales continued to grow during the pandemic, and they were in a variety of businesses, a lot of consumer businesses, but still they grew, which was some cases was really amazing to me. Now they're really, 2022 is just, you know, 20% or more. In 2023, they think will be at least 20. Yeah, that's pretty good sales growth for a small company, grow 20+%. So it's all going. Speaking of that, Montgomery County, I warned you, since you know, crystal ball time. What do you see? I mean, you're working with businesses in Montgomery County. You've got a unique perspective, in my opinion. What do you see over the next few years in Montgomery County, business-wise?
I think Montgomery County's in the catbird seat, frankly. I think that it's physically in the right place to service all the entire Gulf Coast region. So physically, I would choose Montgomery County as a location. Cost of real estate, I would choose Montgomery County as a location. Educated labor force, I would choose Montgomery County as a location. So I think Montgomery County has nothing but good times to look at as far as business is concerned. Everybody's concerned about, you know, what 2023 is going to do to the real estate market, right? But if you're a business owner and you're looking for a place to locate, that's good news. That's very good news. I think also because so much is being onshored that was offshored as far as manufacturing and production is concerned. If I am a manufacturer looking to be close to the port but not pay a fortune for the real estate, I'm looking at Montgomery County. If I'm looking to expand my warehouses, I can pay high-end real estate prices, or I can look at Montgomery County. The opportunity for warehouse development, the opportunity for manufacturing development. I mean, if I sound like I'm with the Chamber of Commerce in Montgomery County, I really believe that this is the best spot for growth in manufacturing and warehousing and distribution. And I see, my little crystal ball says that we've got good times ahead for the next 30 years.
Eric, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm seeing it in actual deal flow. We're starting to see, manufacturing in the oil field and outside of the oil field starting to grow. We're starting to see service companies that are popping up. We're seeing a transition in ownership from the baby boomer generation to the next generation. So there's actually a lot of transfer of wealth that's happening right now in Montgomery County in that area. Mining company that's being approached by companies in Europe for them to come and invest in that mining company. They make mining equipment. We're seeing a lot of interest in the area because of the strategic place that Montgomery County and Harris County and the Houston area all are in a great place right now. They're key to what's going to be happening in America. And what most people don't understand is Houston and Montgomery County are a major manufacturing hub for the country. It's probably the best kept secret about Houston and Harris County and Montgomery County.
You make a great point. I know the things I've learned here, I've only been here a short time, 7-8 years, but is the industrial parks. You have the ones that the city and the county have established, and it just blows me away how well they've been able to bring in businesses for manufacturing. There's a lot going on, and when you start driving around kind of the outer part of the city, you see these different businesses, the big metal buildings, and you say, what are they making?
Yes.
It's just amazing. It was an eye-opener for me. And I grew up in Harris County. I was born there, grew up in a family business, and it reminds me of Harris County, Houston, Harris County, maybe 20, 30 years ago when I was just the growth, the attitude. They've hit a lot of buttons up here.
Yes.
Even developing an airport.
Yes.
I'm just, people say, what is an airport with a custom station? Yet that brings something to the table, especially when foreign companies come looking for property. So I give a lot of credit to the business leadership in the Woodlands and Conroe and Montgomery County, and also the government leadership, county commissioners, city governments, and so on and so forth. This is just an observation of what I've seen and what I read, and so on and so forth. Yeah, they've built that total infrastructure.
Yes.
They could do a little bit with the roads, but we won't go there right now. That's always
Houston's just as bad.
But they've done a pretty good job. And the one thing different than Houston, I've noticed in Houston, roads are kind of deteriorating. They've reached that life cycle.
Yeah.
Where up here they're a lot newer because of. But yeah, they do it. They try very hard, in my opinion, to keep up with the growth of roads. But all I know is 7 years ago we bought down on a little farm to market road, and today that farm to market road, I was behind 10, 15 cars just coming into Conroe. So it's grown that fast and continue to grow. I agree. If people want to get in touch with your company, they want to ask a question about factoring or maybe discuss with you a business relationship, what's the best way for them to do that?
Reach out to us via email. My email is brenda@americanprudentialcapital.com. Eric's email is eric@americanprudentialcapital.com. They can call us. We can give the phone number. My phone number is 713-289-9415. Easily to reach me. My phone's with me, as we discovered earlier, all the time. Eric?
And you can go on the web, AmericanPrudentialCapital.com. You can actually find us on Google Maps as well. A lot of people will call us right off of Google Maps. We're real easy to find on Google. We typically show up in the top 3 on the page. So it's really easy to find American Prudential Capital on the web.
Well, I can't thank you all enough. This has been wonderful. I've learned a few more things about factoring and even feel stronger that it potentially is a tool that every business that is growing or wants to grow should have in its toolbox and can help it reach its goals.
Absolutely.
In a cost-effective way, and I appreciate that so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our bottom of the hour break. Before we do, I want to remind you that a podcast, video cast of today's program will be posted on Wednesday of this week. It'll be out there all over social media, also here at the radio station, irlonestar.com, but on Facebook, YouTube. So if you missed something or you potentially want to share something you heard, we would appreciate it. So check us out, the pod video cast Wednesday of this week. Second half of the show, as I promised, got a mailbag item that was sent in by Sam. He says, how can I make myself and my business more attractive in the digital world? Well, that's a big, broad question, but I'm going to offer several ideas that, to me, if you'll take those and run with them, they should give you somewhat of a boost in your appearance out there and availability in the digital world. And I'll close today's program with my one best consult tip of the week, how to build a world-class employer. So stick around with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio. Broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Hey, tune in to the Bridge Podcast TX Tuesdays at 11 a.m., where we are connecting commerce with community, interviewing business owners and leaders in the community, allowing the audience to peek behind the curtain of what inspires, motivates, drives these individuals to have meaningful, positive impact in this community. For more information about the show, log into irlonestar.com/TBPTX.
Is there someone you know who is hooked on vintage aircraft? Follow the Commemorative Air Force and its fleet of World War II planes, including the mighty B-17 Flying Fortress Texas Raiders, which is based in Conroe, Texas. Texas Raiders tours locally and all around the United States, offering the public a chance to put their hands on aviation history. What could be a more perfect gift than a flight on a historic B-17? Taking to the sky on the iconic bomber is an experience that will never be forgotten. For the touring schedule, reservations, or more information, go to b17texasraiders.org or call 855-FLY-A-B-17.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app for your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That is Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
God's Garage is a 501c3 that repairs and gives away cars for free to single moms, widows, and wives of deployed military. You can help God's Garage by donating a vehicle, volunteering your time, or by monetary donation. God's Garage is located at 2106 East Davis, Conroe. If you'd like to learn more about God's Garage, visit our website at godsgarage.org. Or you can contact us and we would be glad to come and make a presentation to your group.
Hey y'all, It's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Lone Star Boxer Rescue is a nonprofit organization serving Montgomery County and surrounding areas, dedicated to the health and well-being of the boxer breed. Lone Star Boxer Rescue is run and managed 100% by volunteers since 1999. Our main objective is to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome boxers that come to us from many sources, including local animal shelters, owner surrenders, and strays. For more information about Lone Star Boxer Rescue, visit our website at lsbr.org.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. Rick Schissler here. I'm your host. I hope you've enjoyed the program so far. Engineer informed me that we just have a little bit of time left today, so I'm going to have to get through some subjects, and I don't like to rush things. So what we're going to do our mailbag segment, as I mentioned before the break. We got an inquiry from Sam H. How can I make myself and my business more attractive in the digital world? I'm going to give you some general ideas. This is a subject that many books have been written about, but hopefully provide a little direction to Sam and maybe some others that are listening in. And I'll hold on to that tip of the week conversation about how to build a world-class employer until we visit again next week. Well, let's get right to the mailbag. Sam again said, how can I make myself and my business more attractive, more visible, my word, in the digital world? I think there are three basic things you've got to make sure that you're doing. And there are a lot of other things, as I mentioned. There's just this subject, in my opinion, looking for expertise, looking for someone perhaps outside the business that has expertise in this area. Find someone to help you do this. Now, beware, there's a lot of people out there that say, well, I can get the SEO up this, or I can do, beware. Those kind of promises they're hollow, they're empty, cannot do, will not do. They're looking to take your money. But I'm talking about somebody in your own community, somebody you can reach out and talk to. Now, again, you can find somebody online, but you want to communicate with them and talk to them and make sure they're real. Make sure they can deliver. But nobody can really say, well, I'm going to get you 100 more hits every day and then follow through on that. A lot of that, I don't get it. But don't be a sucker. Don't book that play. But what you can do, three things you can do to be more visible. This could be on your website. This could be on emails. This could be on Facebook. Anywhere you're putting up digital information, marketing, advertising. First of all, demonstrate your expertise. Every business has to have an expertise. You've got to show what your unique selling proposition is. What is unique about your company? And you perhaps will need to think about that for a minute, but you've got to be able to do that. You need to understand your customers, your clients. What are their pain points? What are they looking for? And then you provide a solution, offering insider perspective that others may not have. It's not rocket science, in my opinion, but it does require some thoughts. What are people looking for? What can I provide that will help them, that they'll be convinced and happy and satisfied and come back again and again to buy from me, that no one else in the marketplace really does, or at least they're not talking about it. Secondly, connect your business and personal life. One of the things as a small business that I think a lot of small businesses miss, but I've seen some people do this very, very well, especially on places like LinkedIn and Facebook. from time to time, mix your personal in with your business message. It's the idea you don't want to be, well, here's my daughter's birthday or my son, graduated. You got to be careful with that kind of thing. But what you want to do is share passions. You want to communicate, right? You're really building relationships. And it may be thousands of relationships if it's digital. But you want to take passions, things that people that do business that you want to do business with have. For example, cycling. And I'm just pulling that one out. It's a common one used as an example. So you share that you are, just finished a big cycling trip, or you and your spouse rode a bike from here to there, whatever. And you just kind of mix that in with your business. So it's not a real in-depth level, but perhaps there's enough cyclers out there that are part of that market that you're trying to reach, part of your market, and you will begin to build a personal relationship. Not hard to do. Just select things that's going on in your personal life that you feel will appeal to those people. And the last thing is start a conversation. Ask questions of people. Don't be afraid online to ask a question. Add insights that people are looking for. Build a relationship. I appreciate Brenda and Eric joining us today from American Prudential Capital. I encourage you that if your business needs financing or may need financing, reach out to these people. Talk to them. Even if you don't do business with them, they are smart people, I guarantee you. And factoring potentially needs to be available to you, if not today, down the road. And put a note on your calendar to join us again next Monday, right here on irlonestar.com at 11 a.m. And until next week, as I always encourage people, stay engaged and always keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.